Good afternoon. We're here today because, frankly, we're alarmed. I'm joined by Legislator Rob Trotta, Legislator Leslie Kennedy, Legislator Rudy Sunderman, Legislator Steve Flotter, Legislator Tom Muratori, and with our County Comptroller, John Kennedy. And we're alarmed. Each year, the County Executive has told the Legislature and told the public that things are getting better. Yet it appears, based on the DiNapoli report, that it's quite the opposite. Things are getting much worse. County Executive Bellone has had nearly 8 years to turn this ship around. And despite more than $172 million of sales tax growth, let me just repeat that, $172 million of sales tax growth from 2013 to 2018, and hundreds of millions of dollars of new taxes and new fees, it appears Suffolk finances have continued to deteriorate. Our debt has skyrocketed and our bond rating has plummeted 7 times. Bellone's spokesperson says he's been digging Suffolk out of a massive financial crisis, but it seems that, as we have been saying all along, the hole has gotten much deeper. As further evidence of what can only be described as delusion or deceit, in an article in today's Newsday, Jason Alon credits Bellone for not letting our financial stress ranking fall further, but in fact, it has fallen further over the years Bellone has been in office. And in fact, it is as bad as it can possibly be. Recently, Comptroller Tom DiNapoli released a report on fiscal stress. That report indicated that Suffolk's fiscal stress level is significantly fiscally stressed. The worst rating of all counties in New York State, worse even than Nassau County. So today, we're asking our Comptroller to have a look at that situation, to get to the truth. But honestly, I'm much more inclined to believe Tom DiNapoli's report than County Executive Steve Bellone. Why? Each year the County Executive has proposed a budget. Each year he's called it balanced. And each year there have been huge deficits, some exceeding $100 million. To me, he has lost all credibility. We need to get to the truth. And so with that said, I'd like to introduce our Comptroller, John Kennedy, to say a few words. John?
Well, thank you, Legislator Silmian. As a matter of fact, I couldn't agree more. It is something that our office has been talking about now repeatedly, actually over the last 5 years, about the ever declining status of our financial situation. And the numbers don't lie. When you take a look at what Comptroller DiNapoli has identified, let's just look at one factor in particular, fund balance. Fund balance has declined by more than 100% each year over the last 3 years. What that means is 2018 sustained a $91 million deficit across the funds that were measured. What that means is, very simply, this county spends more than it takes in. As much as everybody would like to point to constraining factors or extenuating pressures, it's very simple. The county executive and the Democratic majority lack the backbone, the wherewithal, or perhaps even the financial acumen to make the tough decisions necessary to rein in an out-of-control budget, an ever-declining financial situation, and something that our state comptroller, to quote, here we go, being in a stress category in any year should be a red flag for local government officials and citizens. Remaining in stress for multiple years is even more of a cause for concern. We're there. Multiple years, significant fiscal stress, and quite candidly, a county executive who's saying everything's fine, good times are around the corner, and we have no issues with the budget whatsoever. Most frightening is his discussions of what he encountered 8 years ago. In government, that's like a lifetime. We hear nothing about his willingness to confront the inevitable and impending downturn in the economy, there is no plan to constrain more than $68 million in discretionary, non-mandated spending across the board for agencies. There's no mention of reining in what year-to-date is a $41 million overtime price tag. It is as if the inmates are running the asylum. It is time to confront this. It is time to work together as this Republican caucus has. And I will remind you that last year, to a legislator, they opposed what was an unbalanced, improperly presented, and out-of-kilter 2019 budget. They knew, they could see. They weren't deceived, they didn't buy the lies, they did not move forward blindly and not adhere to the best interest of their constituents. So today, it is time for the Democratic County Executive, and for that matter, the Democratic majority, to either accept that they have brought us to this precipice or continue to delude themselves that we will be better. We will not be better. As a matter of fact, Albert Einstein described doing the same behavior over and over again and expecting a different outcome is the definition of insanity. I would say to each and every one, we've arrived. We're at that level, and absent drastic actions to revise our budget process, we are approaching utter collapse and municipal mayhem and chaos. The worst is certainly coming. So that's our take on it, and as a matter of fact, I'm happy to answer any particular questions caucus leader Silmy, but it's not a pretty picture. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you very much, John. I need to underscore something here. Jason Alon, who's the county executive spokesperson, said in an article in Newsday today, in fact, he gave the county executive credit for not allowing the ranking in Tom DiNapoli's report to sink below where it is. It's already at the worst it could possibly be. And in fact, that ranking has sunk while Steve Bellone has been in office. In the years from 2013 through 2015, we were under moderate fiscal stress, and there's a number that's associated with that. It says 60.8. 100 is, you don't get to 100. That's terrible. That's bankruptcy. But it was 60.8 for 2013 through 2015. In 2016, that fiscal stress, still indicated as moderate fiscal stress, was 64.2, so we got a little bit worse. And then in 2017 and 2018, we graduated, if you will, to significant fiscal stress with a score of 76.7, which is the highest score of fiscal stress in the entire state, higher in fact than Nassau County. We are in deep trouble. With that, I would like to introduce Legislator Rob Trotter for some remarks.
I think the point that we should really bring about is that this happened during a time of great economic expansion. God forbid there's a recession, and it's going to happen at some point. Then we are in, as the Comptroller will tell you, if our sales tax revenue goes down, we're finished. People won't get their pensions, people will be laid off, it will be disgrace. During economic times like we've had, we should be stockpiling money, we should be having reserves. We have none of that. And quite honestly, the county executive Bellone has perpetrated a fraud on the citizens of this county, and Jason Elon is a co-conspirator, because what he's saying is that we have stayed under the tax cap, when the reality is most of Suffolk County, with the exception of the Southwest Sewer District, which has been overcharged for a project that was completed and paid for years ago, but continued to pay for it. It's like paying your mortgage off and still taking the money, and then having the bank say, oh, you can pay a little less this year, you can pay a little less next year. And what does that do? It makes everybody else pierce the cap. Not to mention every fee, red light camera ticket, cremation fee, car registration fee. He is mismanaged his county to the brink of bankruptcy during a time of great economic expansion. That is the definition of incompetence. I think that about sums it up.
Thank you, Legislator Trotter, and now Legislator Steve Flotter.
Legislator Trotter just pointed out, this last so many years they've been saying how to stay under the tax cap. In my district, which is mostly the Southwest Sewer District, the residents, the households are paying paid thousands and thousands of dollars more of extra taxes, and they've been slowly, and they stockpiled, overcharged them. And now they're when they do the reduction of bringing it to what the tax should be, they're able to hide behind the mask that we stayed under the tax cap. The Southwest Sewer District community was overtaxed, and that's a crime in itself. Again, this is horrible to hear. One of the richest counties, one of the best economies in the state of New York is at this level. And again, last year through the budget process, we spent many hours on what other things we should spend on, days and days and weeks. They spent about an hour on, let's change the decimal point of what we assume the sales tax will come in. They did not make any tough decisions, and that's part of the reason all of us voted no last year on the budget, because we need to be able to work as a group to get everything passed. Thank you.
It's important to note that at the same time as we've had such great economic success here, and that has boosted revenue in so many ways, and at the same time that the county executive has increased fees and taxes by hundreds of millions of dollars, he has mismanaged this county and spent millions of dollars in wasted money. Lawsuits from contracts that have been breached. What else, Legislator Trotter?
If we get sued for that Southwest Sewer District,
Right.
that could be $250, $300 million. And guess what? Where will Steve Malone be when that settles? On the beach in Florida, like when the $200 million that he borrowed from the sewer fund is due in 2029, he will be on the beach in Florida.
Right.
Who, Mr. Water Quality, stole $203 million from the sewer fund. For that reason alone, no one should vote for him.
There's one more thing that we just want to highlight. We talked about bond downgrades and what that means. And I'd like if Comptroller Kennedy could just elaborate a little bit on exactly what has happened with our bond rating and what that means to our residents and to our government.
So we have very specific consequences with the 7 bond downgrades that we have sustained under the Malone years. And as a matter of fact, Moody's now has us at junk bond status. Last year, when we went out for our tax anticipation note of $410 million in December, we could only sell $205 million competitively. We had to negotiate with Bank of America to take up the balance of the issuance. And there was a direct additional interest charge of $350,000. Not only did we sustain additional interest charge, there are fewer and fewer entities that are willing to bid on our notes and our issuances. We are now going into the market and have been forced to actually issue a $25 million bond anticipation note based on New York State Department of Transportation aid that has not been remitted for claims that go back to December of 18. Not only have we sustained serious economic consequences, nobody is aging our receivables. That's because County Executive Malone has removed anybody from any department with any element of financial acumen whatsoever. We have a lot of people from Nassau and New York City. Heck, they come all the way from California. They get paid well, and they do very little. They certainly don't take care of our finances. It is, if ever there was a screaming harbinger of disaster to come, this is it.
So in summary, we have really a dichotomy of impressions of where we're at here in Suffolk County. There is a chasm between Suffolk County Executive Steve Malone's perception of where Suffolk County is and where Suffolk County is going and reality. And Tom DiNapoli made that reality very clear when he listed Suffolk County as the worst county in New York State for fiscal stress. So we are looking forward to working with our colleagues in the legislature, continuing to fight this fight for the taxpayers of Suffolk County. We're looking forward to working with our Comptroller, John Kennedy, as we move forward and try and make some sense out of this crazy dichotomy of numbers. So we thank you